Good morning. I'll call the Kaneohe County Board of Commissioners meeting to order for this morning, April 2nd. The first order of business, stand and recite the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to everybody who's here in person and anybody who is watching or listening in. We have a pretty full agenda today, but a lot of them are fairly routine items. You've received your packet in the board in your email or on Compass, and so the first item of business is to approve the agenda.
Somebody,
Mr. Chair,
Well,
I make a
speak at
motion
once.
to approve the agenda.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
Commissioner Berg seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The other item in your packet, or one of the other items in your packet, was the consent agenda. And included in the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting, the approval of the warrants and claims, a 2024 liquor license renewal, and the annual 2024 boat and water safety grant contract agreement. So I would entertain a motion to accept, to move on the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I just was wondering if we could pull item B off the consent agenda. I guess I have a question on one of the checks, just,
Okay, so we will pull item B off the consent agenda and move it to, let's just move it to the end right in front of the administrative updates.
okay.
Help me remember when we get
Yep.
to that point. All right, with that removal from the consent agenda, I'd entertain a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
So move.
Commissioner Gardner moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. First up on general business discussion and updates is Dooley's Petroleum. So if you'd come up to the podium and state your name for the record and state your business. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Nathan DeLeo. I'm the operations manager for Dooley's Natural Gas. Along with me is Tim Hulsher, our general manager. And the reason we're here this morning is to provide a executive summary of our proposed renewable natural gas pipeline project as it is today. And this is a result of a meeting we had on March 19th with Kaneohe, Chippewa, and Swift County administrators and engineers. And it was just a takeaway from that meeting. This project has evolved since we first started, and it just kind of touches on what those evolutions look like. And I'll just kind of breeze through it, and I'd love any questions or anything that you may have. I'd love to have an opportunity to answer those. So again, this summary is for the pipeline project, and it's just to foster open communications and make sure that our intent is clear. And Dooley's Natural Gas 2 operates currently under a small utility exemption, which is granted by the Public Utilities Commission, and we adhere to guidelines and reporting requirements for that. And this new system will be owned and operated by Dooley's Natural Gas 2 and will adhere to those same guidelines. Design overview, again, not a whole lot has changed. The low pressure portion is proposed to be installed in road rights of way and consists of 25 miles of 4-inch, 2 miles of 2-inch, and 1 mile of 6-inch, totaling 28 miles. Again, the maximum allowable operating pressure will be 125. That's the max that plastic system will operate, or that it can operate. Normal operating pressure will be 100 pounds. At each dairy, Dooley's will own an interconnect, and at that interconnect, we'll be monitoring pressures and gas quality to ensure that the gas being produced meets specifications before it enters our system. These interconnects will also allow gas to be piped back and sold to the processing facilities for fuel for their digesters. The high-pressure portion of the system will be placed entirely on a duly zoned parcel of property about 4 miles south of Burdock. We did close on that, so we do own that 3-acre parcel. The maximum allowable operating pressure will be 2,000 pounds. The high-pressure portion will be about 100 feet of 2-inch steel pipe, and it'll operate on average around 1,500 to 1,700 pounds. And that's governed by what Alliance Transmission Pipeline, what's in their line at that time. We're just gonna compress it just enough to inject it into their line. The site will contain 2 electric-driven compressors with associated motor controls and, again, additional gas quality monitoring equipment. This equipment will be housed in a steel-engineered building that's designed for natural gas equipment. And benefits to the public, this system will generate American-made energy while at the same time reducing greenhouse gases equivalent to energy usage of 971 homes. The pipeline as a whole throughout the 3 counties will generate approximately $60,000 of annual tax revenue. And this is probably the largest change. We're gonna offer gas service as soon as the system is placed into service. That gas service is going to be governed by our Dooley's Rates and Services book. So we've got standards on our approved rate book, and service connections will be governed by that rate book. The gas service right now will be interruptible. It's always been Dooley's Natural Gas intent to sell to the public along the route. We wanted to wait until we had some production history, a year or two, so we knew that production volumes were sustainable. Right now, we won't have that production history, so someone can hook up along the route, but we're gonna call that connection interruptible because we don't know how reliable that volume will be. The gas quality that will be in this pipeline will be comparable to what is in Dooley's natural gas systems now. Your appliance at home won't know the difference between this gas and gas in our system in Renville or Bruton or Belgrade. So, not to take any more time, that's kind of in a nutshell where the project sits now. And if there's any questions, I'd love to take an opportunity to answer them.
Thank you. Commissioner Dwayne Anderson.
Yeah, so my question would be, where it says it's proposed to be installed in the road right away, that's on the outer edge of the right away, or?
Yeah, in right away, we've proposed within 3 foot of right away line.
Okay.
But inside road right away.
All right.
Yep.
I guess my biggest concern would be if the road ever needed reconstruction or something, that it would be
Sure.
out of the way enough so that the
Yep.
road could be rebuilt without.
Sure, yep, and it's kind of stated in the, in county permitting that if that county road or, if a township road were ever gonna be rebuilt, we're playing by your rules. We're in your right of way. If we need to move our facilities, we move our facilities.
Okay.
Good.
And then, other question, I think you've told me that before. It's only like 1 or 2 miles in Candioi County. Isn't it?
Correct, yeah, just a hair over 2 miles,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay. All right. Thank you.
yep, and that's 4-inch, HDPE pipe.
Okay.
Any other questions? Commissioner Dale Anderson.
I guess I have 2 things. I was just wondering, why did you guys go with, on the low pressure side, why didn't you go with a higher pressure pipe when you're only 25 pounds away from, maybe it doesn't vary that much, but I'm just thinking if the max can only handle 125 and you're running at 100, things can happen. So I just wondered why you guys didn't go with a higher pressure pipe
Sure,
to
sure.
handle that.
Yep, that's a great question, thank you. Our existing facilities, in towns, we operate at 60 pounds, that's a requirement there, but, running between towns, we run at 100 pounds. It's pretty standard to use that HDPE, that high density pipe, which we operate at 100, and we've got overpressure protection that protects it to ever get to that maximum allowable operating pressure.
Okay.
So it's pretty well an industry standard, but I see where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, it just seems close, and that was why I just.
Yep. But yeah, we've got overpressure protection. That'll make sure that we never exceed that MAOP. If we ever do, there's quite a bit of requirements. It's not something we've done yet, and we don't ever plan on doing, but there's requirements with Minnesota Office of Pipeline Safety and things that we need to report right away if we ever do go over that. So yeah, we ensure that we don't hit that 125 pounds. So.
All right, thanks.
Did you have a second?
No, I kind of the same thing Dwayne was asking about. I just was curious on the right of way, but that's fine.
And I would ask staff, because you were at a meeting, joint meeting with the other counties, do you have any comments you'd like to make at this point?
I don't. I think they satisfied all our questions.
Okay. Same?
Yes, and I've had conversations with Mr. Dooley as well, and I was unable to attend that March 19th meeting, as I let you know the other dates are, we had to reschedule our Health and Human Services work session.
So, all right. Did you have something?
Just a comment would be,
Okay, go ahead.
I want to commend you on your transparency on this whole thing, and you came back today again to restate what's happening and treating all three counties that are involved in this equally, and I really appreciate what you're doing as from a business point of view in our community, but also the benefits to the public are remarkable, and I think it's a good project to go forward with, so thank you.
Great, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a comment I was gonna make as well, you
I
know.
jumped in ahead of you.
No issues, no. So methane, as I understand it, is 28 times more dangerous to the ozone layer than what CO2 is. And so by capturing this methane and converting it to energy, even though there's some combustibility going on after a while, we've reduced it by quite a bit. And so in the big picture, I think it's a great thing what you're doing. And I hope you understand, there was a few hoops that, you know, everybody had to jump through, but we have the obligation, our staff has the obligation to make sure that, you know, they try to address any issues that we can possibly think of and take care of them. So we appreciate, as Commissioner Berg said, the cooperation. So
Absolutely.
thank you again for coming in. And, one last question that I had. Do you have a projected date for going into operation?
We're still shooting for this fall. Our PUC, I believe we're going to be on the PUC's agenda mid to late April. So that'll be one other hoop that we've got to get across, that one finish line we've got to get across. So once we get that, we're hoping to start construction shortly after that, at least on the interconnect site and where we're at on the counties.
But the digesters are up and running because you're probably.
They're being built right now
Okay.
still. So yeah, we're still shooting for this fall to be in service.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time, and thank you for getting us on the agenda. We very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Next up on the agenda, Corey.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Corey Smith. I'm the director out of Glacial Lakes Sanitary Sewer and Water District. I am before you today to present the bid award recommendation for the New London Water Tower Restoration Project. A little bit about the tower and the project itself. The tower is located by the New London High School. It's 149 feet tall. When full, it holds 250,000 gallons of water. The project itself consists of complete sandblasting and reconditioning of the interior wet and the entire exterior, partial spot repair of the interior dry, full curtain containment due to the proximity of the high school and the surrounding homes, and updated skating equipment, which is communication. The work itself is scheduled to take place or to start on May 25th, and substantial completion will be August 25th. And that time that the work will be, or the construction will be going on, is when the students are on their summer break. Final completion will be September 27th. For the project, we received 7 bids that were open on March 12th. These are shown in the attached bid tab that everyone should have received in their packet. They range from $874,000 to the low bid from Slack Payne and LLC of Brandon, Minnesota for $436,650. The total project budget with engineering and a couple other miscellaneous items is $512,270, and this is also shown in the attached budget. The project will be funded with unspent bonds from our previous project and our Glacial Lakes reserves. At our monthly Glacial Lakes Commission meeting on March 25th, they recommended forwarding the recommendation of accepting bids and awarding the project to Slack Payne. With that, it is staff's and Glacial Lakes Commission's recommendation to accept the bids and award the New London Tower Restoration Project to Slack Payne LLC of Brandon, Minnesota in the amount of $436,650.
So you've heard staff recommendations on awarding the bid. How do you wish to proceed with that?
I'll make that motion to award the contract to Slack Painting LLC of Brandon, Minnesota for $436,650.
So Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any questions or comments? They look like pretty good. Go ahead.
We've talked about this before. It looks like a good, very good project going forward. Is there going to be any interruptions at all, concerns in the process of transferring over?
We don't plan on any, but we are set up for that. So for the duration that the tower is down, our pumps at the water plant will be continuously running to supply adequate water pressure and volume to the town. So
Yeah, and that was the reason for doing it
No.
between the school years, so that there wasn't as much usage, and so.
right.
And plus, there's be less disruption, because it's right adjacent to one of the parking lots and where the
Correct.
buses come in
Yep.
and go out, so. All right, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. You may proceed to the,
So I got these last 2 items kind of go hand in hand. We'll start off with the second item is the bid award recommendation for our wastewater treatment facility Phase 2 project. For this project, we opened bids on February 8th. We received 2 bids as shown. One was Rice Lake Construction Group for the amount of $20,134,200, and Gritter Construction out of Buffalo, Minnesota was a low bid at $18,926,100. For the Phase 2 project, this will occur east of Green Lake at the wastewater treatment facility. The project is needed to address storage issues, growth, aging equipment, and our new NPDS permit that put on more stringent phosphorus limits. In your packet, you should have received the schedule, the 3-page schedule. The first 2 pages that have check marks are some of the tasks that we have completed along this way. As you can see, the project, we started talking about this and started doing design way back in 2022. The planned schedule moving forward is on May 3rd, notice to proceed and start construction. December 1st, 2025 would be substantial completion. And March 1st, 2026 would be final completion. The project will be funded with PFA loan and grant as shown in the attached Phase 2 budget. Total project costs will add up to $21,406,600. Of that, we have received a grant of $6,898,539. And then the remaining balance of $14,508,061 will be financed through low interest PFA loan and paid for by our user rates. On March 25th, 2024, the Glacial Lakes Commission recommended forwarding the acceptance of bid and awarding the project to Gritter Construction of Buffalo, Minnesota to the Candiac County Board for consideration. So with that, it is Glacial Lakes Commission's recommendation to award the Glacial Lakes Wastewater Treatment Facility Phase 2 project to Gritter Construction Incorporated of Buffalo, Minnesota in the amount of $18,926,100.
So you heard staff's recommendation on phase 2 at the Glacier Lakes Sanitary Sewer and Water Treatment Plant to accept the bid from Gritter Construction. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, I'll move the recommendation of the commission and staff.
Commissioner Gardner moves on the recommendation. Do I hear a second?
I think maybe the chair, it's your district.
I'll second that. Any questions or comments? I would just remind anybody who's watching this is a huge amount of money. It was a great grant, but this is an enterprise project, so it only affects the users of the system and not the entire county, so. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion carries. And one more contract?
Yep, the last item that I have is Resolution 2024-10, approving the wastewater treatment facility Phase 2 construction services, amendment number 1. So if you go back, which I have included in your packet, the original agreement and resolution back on September 19th, 2022, that's what this board approved. Agreement for professional services in the amount of $905,500. So that contract or that part of it was for the preliminary engineering, the design, final design review, contract documents, bid-in services, and contract award. So that gets us through today. Moving forward, the amendment that you have in front of you is for the construction-related services part of the project. This will remain in effect until the project is completed. Inside your packet, it shows what all is included in the construction services, ranging from meetings, inspections, documentations, pay apps, all the way to final closeout. On March 25th, the Glacier Lakes Commission recommended approval for the Phase 2 project construction services not to exceed $1,575,000 to the Candiac County Board for consideration. With that, it is the Glacier Lakes Commission's recommendation to approve Resolution 2024-10, approving the wastewater treatment facility Phase 2 construction services, amendment number 1, for the amount of $1,575,000, and have the chair and administrator sign on behalf of Candiac County.
You heard the recommendation, and that recommendation, or that contract then would be awarded to Bolton and Mink.
Correct, yes. Yep.
So I would move on or it's not a resolution, on the.
Yep.
Yeah, it
Oh, it
is.
is.
Dash 10.
2024-10.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
my only question is, what are you going to do after you get this all done? I just want to compliment you.
It's gonna
on-
take 2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got, already you've put a lot of work and time in this and a lot of details. This is a big several big projects here.
Yep, and one thing I didn't mention at this board, but I mentioned at Road and Bridge in some
Yep.
previous meetings, is that once this project, Phase 2 project is done, we don't foresee any other large-scale projects out at the wastewater treatment plant unless we get new regulations, for permit limits imposed on us, so.
And as a heads up, sometimes those regulations can get very, very expensive.
For sure.
Requiring equipment that, runs into millions, actually, so. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Corey. All right, next up, proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommuters Week. Sheriff Tolleson.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Eric Tollefson, Candiac County Sheriff. Item I have before you this morning would be to ask for your blessing on the proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week, which is next week, April 14th through the 20th, 2024. I'll just give you a brief, you do have the document before you that I sent over for your packet. Just want to highlight a little bit. I mean, the telecommunicators are responsible, obviously, for the prompt response of police, fire, and EMS services in Candiac County and also Big Stone County. And they do that by gathering accurate information to hand out to these agencies that they dispatch. They're the critical point of contact that a lot of our citizens receive, the first time they experience an emergency. So their work is very, very important to the safety of our community and also to the safety of the EMS services that they dispatch. I mean, they're our lifeline, when we're responding to calls and when we're at calls. So I think it's important to publicly recognize these men and women for the work that they do.
Thank you. You've heard the sheriff's explanation of the proclamation. I'm looking for a motion to accept this proclamation.
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion to accept the proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the proclamation. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. Dale Anderson seconds. Any questions or comments? Thank you for bringing this forward. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a follow-up question, though?
Sure.
Can you comment, I talked to you briefly once before, of people to call in for emergencies, they can also text in, right?
Correct.
Can you just comment a little bit about that? Because I never knew that.
Yeah, it's been
Or
in
I thought about
existence
that.
for a while now. Last year, we only had, maybe a couple of dozen text to 911 calls. In 2022, we had like 14. So it's not really overly utilized. Most people obviously are going to call, but it has been used. And, the really nice thing about the text to 911 is once that communication is established, then dispatch can send that person a link, and then once they click on that link, we get kind of a real time. It tracks them exactly where they are. So as far as locating people, if they have that ability, and that actually has been utilized in those circumstances where someone was essentially didn't know where they were, and we were able to pinpoint their exact location. So, but yeah, it is available. So you just simply the number that you text is 911. So, and it's a real live person. You get an automated response right away, and then there's a real person on the other end of that text. So,
Well, thank you for sharing.
So I have something happened to me last week that my phone froze up. It was froze on a screen, and usually you shut the phone off. I got an iPhone. And when I would do that, nothing would happen, and all of a sudden I got a message that you're sending out an SOS.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop that. And
yeah.
what I finally did, I had to Google it on my computer to see how to fix that. I figured it out, but I think I sent out 3 SOSs before I did it.
Right.
Where did they go? Nobody
They'll
responded.
go to a PSAP. Depending upon what tower you're hitting off of, they'll go to the closest one usually. And yeah, we've had those, and we spoke about last year about the changes that I think Google made with the auto dial, where like we just had one where a phone suddenly stopped and automatically dialed 911. It happened to be left on top of a car. They're driving down the road. The phone fell off, hit the road, and then it simulated it's supposed to be an instant response to a crash. So, but we've had it where they've dialed 911 just vibrating in a cup holder of a lawnmower. So,
Well, I did figure it out, and nobody showed up at, I think it was when I was in Grandview last week.
yeah, it's always important to answer when we call back. That way we can.
I couldn't.
make
My
sure
phone was frozen.
Well, there you go. We didn't come visit you though, huh?
No, he did.
Well.
So anyway, sorry to digress.
No, that's all right.
If you may move on to the next item on the agenda is the approval for increase in jail boarding.
Correct. This does require board action. We currently, and this is the amount that we charge for boarding of inmates from other counties when they come and stay at our facility. This was decided by the District 3 sheriffs. There's 16 counties in that district, and Candia is one of them. Meeker, Renville, Chippewa, Yellow Medicine, Lac-Qui-Parle, Big Stone, Swift, Traverse, Grant, Wilkin, Otter Tail, Stearns, Pope, Douglas, and Todd. So we recently decided to increase our boarding rates that we charge each other from $55 to $75. That would be fine if that was effective today. The last increase, I was checking with our assistant jail administrator and a jail administrator, and they don't believe it's changed or been increased since we moved out to this building in 2020.
Really?
So it's been a while, so, but all of the sheriffs that have jails in District 3 have decided to go to $75 a day. So I would ask for your approval to do that.
So you heard the sheriff's request to change the rates to $75 a day from $55 a day. How do you wish to proceed?
Mr. Chair, also move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves to increase to 75. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, yes.
ahead.
Any idea what additional revenue that will bring in? I know with the jail, there've been a lot of extra expenses with the food and everything, so this will help recover that and put.
A little bit. We, as far as our boarding rates or the income that we receive from boarding, the bulk of that, of course, comes from our federal contract, but the local jails that board, I'd have to, I don't know exactly what that breakdown is. We spent last year about 36,000 boarding out, and we generally use our neighboring jails for that, just because of convenience and that kind of thing. So I don't have that exact number. I don't think it's a tremendous amount. I would say it probably washes out with what we spend boarding out.
So this, may I follow, Mr.
Yes.
Chair? So we have the federal contract, so this doesn't affect that then?
Not at all. That's
Okay.
negotiated, that's negotiated separately, and it's completely different. As is DOC, and we don't have any DOC beds right now, but their rate is different as well, that the jails that board for DOC have. No, this is just strictly if we take another county inmate from another county.
I see.
So I was at a conference last week, and we always have the breakfast, dinner, hallway conversations, and jails came up, and there's counties around the state that are considering building jails, and then there's some of them are saying, man, it's cheaper to rent from our neighbors than to build our own. I think the timing of this is good in case we have some neighboring county that says, hey, you want to give us a contract to house our if we even had the room. But that's a tough question that a lot of counties are dealing with right now is, do we build or do we not build?
It is tough because obviously the cost of building is ridiculous, but, some of your smaller counties, especially, western part of the state, they just don't have the inmate population, and it's easier, and it's, if they're close enough where it's, a half hour, 45-minute drive one way for the transport deputy, even court appearances, well, with remote appearances and that kind of thing. So yeah, boarding out is, I anticipate we will continue to house those from our neighboring counties in the future, so.
And currently, where are we at? I know we had some federal contracts to take up some space, and what is our vacancy rate right now?
We're pretty full right now. We're right at about 170 today.
So if somebody approached us, you could say, well, we can take a few this weekend, but
It depends, yeah. There's times, it fluctuates quite dramatically. I mean, we could be, down to 130 next week. So, but yeah, we have those conversations. I mean, generally when you have someone that you need to board out, they're on the phone right away with jail administrators, just, finding out what's available. Obviously, if there's special needs for the particular inmate, they go to only certain facilities. But yeah, it's a good relationship that we have with the other counties, so.
thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah, so my question is, how did you come up with the $75 per day? Is it just to cover the costs, or is it regulated by state or federal guidelines, or?
No, not regulated by anything. It was just kind of a unanimous decision. We kind of took a look at what the other sheriffs and other districts are charging as well. It does vary, from, upwards of $100 down, as low as 60. But we didn't find, very many that were at that $55 mark. So at one of our district meetings, we had the discussion and we just basically decided on 75, just to stay in line and with, pretty much everybody else in the state.
Okay, thank you.
So we do have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Did we not have a motion?
No, I already voted aye.
Okay.
I have a question when,
Okay, for this?
a separate question for the sheriff.
Okay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner
If I
Gardner.
may, thank you so much. Sheriff Tolleson, I've been in at some of the same meetings as the chair, and we have some neighboring counties that are entertaining or have already instituted cannabis licensing moratoriums. Talking with folks at the Association of Minnesota Counties, they're trying to work with the Office of Cannabis Management to develop potentially some model ordinances that counties might want to use for the licensing, but I don't know necessarily if that is going to include, for example, land use or anything like that. Do you have an opinion one way or the other on the advisability of us entertaining
Moratorium?
a moratorium?
I saw his eyebrows
as
go
long
up
as I
when you
have-
said opinions.
Yeah, well,
And if you want to save that for another day, that's fine.
probably best. I think it's not easily answered. And I think, you know, it's important that we look at what's happening around the state too and have those conversations to see what is best and also to get information from other states that have had this, you know, in place for a number of years. I think there's a lot of information that can be obtained to make good decisions here, so, but.
And one of the reasons that this is fairly timely is that the Office of Cannabis Management wishes to issue expedited licensing
Heard that, yeah.
this summer. And, you know, we don't know what all of that is going to entertain. I would rather we think about, you know, erring on the side of caution and making sure that we have the proper processes and procedures and training in place to handle these things. At least have the discussion, and that's why I bring this up today.
Okay. Thank you very much for the information. Or do you have more to present? No, I think we're
Well,
done.
the other one's on the consent agenda, so,
All right, thank you.
all right, thank you.
Up next, bid awarding for bituminous surfacing. Mr. Odens.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mel Odens, Public Works Director, Candidac County. The first one on your agenda is to consider the award of the 2024 paving project. Our estimate for this work was just over $7 million, and we received 3 bids. Bids were open on March 26th during their road and bridge meeting. 3 bids were awarded or were opened, and the summary is in your packet. We had 3 good bids, or all were well below our engineer's estimate, and Central Specialties of Alexandria, Minnesota was read low at $5,669,103.70, which is 1.365 below our estimate. So it's my recommendation, Mr. Chair, to award the bid to Central Specialties of Alexandria, Minnesota.
So you heard recommendation from staff to award the 2024 bituminous surfacing contract to Central Specialties. I'd entertain a motion to that effect.
Also move.
Commissioner Dale Anderson moves. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any questions or discussion? Good bids. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. You may continue with the executive summary of the 2024 Candidac County Bike and Pedestrian Trail Plan, and I see Eric Day is here from the Mid-Minnesota Development Commission, and
Correct. I'm going to kick this off, and then I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and then we'll kind of take team through any questioning that you might have as a board or whatever. But we had done a trail plan a little over 10 years ago. This is a refresh of that trail plan. And Eric, Mid-Minnesota has done both of those. And we use this trail plan for, it's a requirement to get federal money anymore. And we also use it to control where our trails are going to be in this county, so we don't overspend and just build trails wherever people might request. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric, and the PowerPoint that he showed at Road and Bridge is in your packet. And we've asked Eric to not maybe go through the entire thing again, but maybe highlight it in 5 to 10 minutes, just for the sake of the board and for the sake of the public. So I'll turn it over to Eric, and then we will take team on questionings.
Thank you. Welcome, Eric.
Good morning. My name is Eric Day, and I serve as Executive Director for Mid-Minnesota Development Commission. Happy to be here today. I believe you all have a copy of the updated plan, which, as Mel noted, is an update of the plan that was completed, I believe, in 2017. Certainly it started prior to that, but completed in 2017. Through an extensive process of public engagement and with the direction of a number of planning task force members, which beyond staff included representatives from MnDOT, representative from the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership, and some local bike and trails enthusiasts. Engagement also included a survey which garnered over 500 responses and a couple of different public engagement events. Through that process, which is more adequately described within the plan, a number of priorities were identified, system-wide priorities, including maintenance of the county's existing trails, improved trail-to-trail connectivity, the incorporation of destinations and points of interest within the trail system, the addition of trail amenities, and improved trail signage. As far as specific routes that were considered priorities, certainly floating to the top of the list was the completion of a connection between New London and Sibley State Park, connecting Sibley State Park area to the Games Lake area, two recreation areas where there could be some improved connectivity, adding a segment to the Eagle Lake Trail on the lake's northeast side, extending a trail or route further around Diamond Lake, around the north side, and eventually possibly down the east side, completing an on-road connection between Eagle Lake and Diamond Lake, developing a trail connection between Robbins Island and Ridgewater College, adding a trail along 153rd Avenue Northeast, north of Spicer. I know there's been some progress made in some of these areas already, but these were highlighted within the plan. Capitalizing on the new interchange that will be developed along Minnesota State Highway 23 and County 9, and adding a trail segment between County Highway 24 and Civic Center Drive, basically along the west side of Highway 71 there, that would take bikers and walkers to a stoplight where they could cross without slowing traffic further, and it just improves safety. So often these projects are completed in conjunction with other road construction projects or as grant funds become available. And that's why these plans are intended to be a 10-year plan. This isn't something you would do all at once, of course. As far as desired amenities along the trails, priorities included increasing the number of restrooms. And when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean a fixed building. It could mean a portable type installation. Water stations, rest areas, art installations. Sorry, I should back up. Rest area, that could be a nice bench under a shady tree with a good view. That can be a rest area. It doesn't necessarily have to be a major infrastructure project. Signage and wayfinding, incorporation of information to different trail applications. For example, some people might hike or bike and use the All Trails application. I'm not endorsing that application. It's just probably the most common example where a user can go into that application, find information about the length of the trail, the vigor of the trail, et cetera, and they can have that to help plan their trip for the day. First aid stations was another possibility. So while the plan primarily focused on walking and biking routes, there were some complementary trail systems that were also considered and included a bit within the plan. That includes blue/water trails in the New London and Spicer area, but it also includes kind of a launching point for things like snowmobile trails, cross-country ski trails, horse trails, or trails in neighboring geographies. So you think of the Loose Line Trail, which starts in the Cosmos area and heads toward the metro area, or you think of the Lake Coronis area where they've got some more trails there. So there is kind of a launching point within our plan so people can get more information on those other trail systems as well. That's all I have, but I'd be happy to take any questions that any of you might have, and between Mel Odens and I, we'll be able to knock those out for you.
All right, thank you. And I know we heard a lot of this information, if not all of it, just a week ago at Road and Bridge. I thought it would be valuable for those who do watch on YouTube or those who are covering this to hear it as well. But has there been any new questions or comments that have come to you since Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Eric, Mel, how can the public access the plan or obtain further information on it?
We will have it on our website. The other thing that we're gonna be doing is we work with Convention and Visitor Bureau, and they have this brochure that we'll be updating for them. And it'll be in all the little kiosks, but we'll have it on our website as a minimum. And we've also, you know, for the sake of anybody, we've also got like a one-pager, if you will, that we can maybe, this is a good, like, summary of the 100 pages that they wrote of what it is, you know what I mean? And it gives you the gaps, how many miles, it's just the one-pager.
I know that when some of us have had occasion to work the different events during the winter, tourism events, that is one of the most requested handouts, is that little trails map and the corresponding one for snowmobile trails as well, so.
You know, and Mr. Chair, Mr. Gardner, one of the things we did here was, we have these trails and we have these roads, but the amenities or like the QR codes or where are they? It was something that seemed to be like missing, I think, is what we were kind of hearing. And so that is our roads are the roads, and so we know where they are. So we're focusing on gaps with this one, but we're also focusing a little bit on amenities that would encourage people to use it more, because you know where you're going, and it's a safe route, it's a destination route, it's relaxing, it's a low-stress route. And that was some of the things that we were trying to build upon.
Outstanding, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Just want to comment. I remember years ago, used to bike quite a bit. We'd have to go to Wisconsin to some of the trails or whatever. You look here in Kansas County, and this is a place to come now. And it's really changing, and it's kind of exciting. Way back, like now we have Vision 2040 community thing to do forward planning. Back in 2020, they were talking about bicycle trails. And now to see how it has just blossomed, the whole concept. And especially from an economic point of view for our community, that, and the changes in biking, you know, now we got e-bikes, and people with e-bikes can cover a lot of miles. And with this maze of trails we have, it'd be exciting to come here and visit, I would think. So, well done.
Yeah, you know, and one of the things that we did play off of a little bit is like, people go to the Red River Trail System down in Southeast, or people go to Red Wing in that area and go over. That's like an up and back. Mm-hmm. So you go one way, and the only difference between going back is the sun angle. And so what we're doing in our county is we have all these lakes. And if you look at the map, we're completing, in this year, in the next few years alone, we're gonna complete little tiny gaps. One's gonna be in the Zorbas area. It's gonna collect, there's that little link from County Road 8 over to the Legion, if you will. There's just a random gap, and that's gonna be done this year. North Shore of Green Lake is gonna be done this year. The one by the golf course right over here is built, but it'll be completed here in the next few months. And so all these little gaps, and we just received funding, as we talked about last week, for the one on the north side of Eagle Lake. There's a little half-mile piece. We got $450,000 of federal money that used the plan that fills another little tiny gap. But so when you talk about the e-bike system, the enterprise of renting bikes could easily happen here like it does in those areas.
Yeah, and you already touched on tourism, and I had some questions that I think you covered during your presentation, one of you, about how trail planning affects road planning. They kind of go hand in hand, and that it does open up access to funds that otherwise wouldn't be there just because you have the plan. I heard that correctly, right?
Correct. Yes, that's very true.
So the other thing that I thought of since then is that, and I serve on Transportation Policy Committee, and greenhouse gases and vehicle miles traveled are a big deal, and they're going to get to be a bigger deal moving forward. Is there any potential for work that we've done with trails to mitigate some of the requirements we will face in the future for greenhouse gas and vehicle miles traveled issues?
I believe it's going to be a qualifying mitigation effort. I'm not sure if we could retro it, but I certainly would say that is one of the arguments that you would make for having a good system versus just a spotty system. because you could actually market it as another mode of transportation if people so desire, because you have a safe, low-stress route where you can get to your destination.
Eric?
Yeah, if I might add one more thing to that, in addition to greenhouse gas mitigation, the other thing that a quality trails system promotes is equity. Trails are a great way for people from all socioeconomic backgrounds to be able to enjoy the outdoors in a safe manner. Expensive equipment isn't necessarily a requirement. You can walk along a trail for free. Oftentimes, a family might be able to find a used small bicycle for, in the neighborhood of $25 to give their kids a healthy way to spend their time. So and equity, of course, is another federal priority. So Kansas County, as you mentioned, has made great progress on their trail system, and I think that's to be commended.
Yeah, and when I went from middle-aged to seniors last year, I'm more cognizant of equity for seniors, so, or maybe it was the year before, I'm not sure. But there are things that we don't think about, the value of it, safe routes to school. Some of these connections, like I'm thinking of the one that hopefully will go in this summer on 157th Avenue in New London Township, will allow two pretty big neighborhoods, the kids to ride their bike to that school if they wish. And then the healthy lifestyle thing. One thing, I was driving down, I think it was County Road 40 yesterday, and I think we might have missed the mark when we started doing this. So my wife and I own a trike. It's like a tricycle, not a bicycle. They're a little bit wider, quite a bit wider than a bicycle. And some of those shoulders are gonna be barely wide enough for the trikes to stay on the pavement, but we'll get by, so. Anything else? All right, well, thank you again for the presentation. And we will take a 5-minute.
Do we need to take was this an action item?
No,
Mr. Chair?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It says action.
Yeah. I mean, it would be staff's recommendation to adopt the trail plan.
All right. So
I'll move that we adopt the.
Commissioner Anderson moves on staff recommendation to adopt the updated trail plan. Do I hear a second? I got it.
Second.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. The other thing I would say is that this is a living document, because things come up probably before this 5 years is up that might affect yet again the trail plan. And so I think you designed it so that it can be flexible, so that we can adjust
Correct.
things. on it.
We call it a 5-year plan or 10-year planning tool with 5 years of projects is how we define it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll reconvene the Kanawha County Board of Commissioners meeting. Up next on the agenda is,
No, right?
I think Mel is done, right?
No, he's got a between.
No, you got one more.
Oh, I crossed it off.
Finish chewing.
Too early. I should have had that one done before we broke, I'm sorry.
Let me see him. Yeah.
No wonder he had that panicked look on his face.
You got me. I know. Mel Odens, Public Works Director. In front of you is the final bituminous pay item and acceptance of last year's paving work. I believe there was a map in the back, if you want to be reminded, but we did do a lot of miles last year. I think we did 26 miles. And we completed the work last October, and Central Specialties did the work. And so we wanted to close this one out before we started the 2024 work. So the only thing that was remaining was the final retainage. So it's my recommendation to accept the work and authorize final retainage payment in the amount of $82,018.02 to Central Specialties of Alexandria, Minnesota.
You heard recommendation by staff to make the final payment for last year's bituminous work. What do you wish to move?
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to accept the projects and make final payment to Central Specialties Incorporated.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the final payment for last year's bituminous. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dale Anderson seconds. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Up next, the request to repurchase tax forfeited property. This will be an action item. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Michelle Hanson from the Auditor Treasurer's Office. I'm here today with another request by a former taxpayer owner to repurchase property that was forfeited to the state for non-payment of taxes back August 1st of last year. We had emailed out a copy of his letter requesting, as well as some background information. The background information was something that I had drawn up for him last fall, right after the forfeiture happened, with some steps, some suggested steps and a deadline, with end of 2023 being the deadline. However, he has come to us now and is making this request. So the figures on that form are changed somewhat, and we did receive an update from the state that there has been an interest rate change as well, from 10% down to 8%. But that's what I'm bringing you today, is his request to repurchase. And if you have questions, let me know.
So just a clarification, Ms. Hanson, so the change in the interest rate will be honored in the request, even though the request was made prior to the interest adjustment?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. All right, you heard the,
I just had a question, but go
Okay.
ahead.
so you're recommending that we accept this?
Yes, that's our
Settlement.
recommendation, to accept the request to repurchase.
So you heard the recommendation from staff. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I also move with the recommendations presented.
Commissioner Berg moves on the recommendation from staff to accept the settlement agreement with the taxpayers. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Okay, you had a question, Commissioner Berg?
Well, I think you already asked it, so no, that's
okay.
fine. You're supportive of it, and that person's supportive of it as well, so.
Yes,
In the mutual agreement.
correct.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make clear, this is a plan to clear up that arrears. And if the homeowner does not stay current on property taxes going forward, then what happens?
That would be considered a default, similar to a confession of judgment situation, where he would receive notice that he's in arrears, and we would have the option to cancel that repayment plan.
Okay, thank you.
And then it would revert back to the status that it was prior to the settlement
Correct.
conversation. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Up next, Caroline Kahn, Health and Human Services Director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Caroline Kahn. I have the opportunity to serve Candy-Ojai County as the Health and Human Services Director. This morning, I'd like to start with just a thank you for attending our first work session here in 2024 and the time that you all committed in March for that great conversation and educational experience. Following our work session, our team maintains their recommendation to move forward with the committee option as well as quarterly work sessions for the remainder of 2024. Today, I have before you a request for the approval for 2 commissioners to sit on the Health and Human Services Committee.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to start this one by saying that, and I will freely admit, I didn't prefer this process, but it's the process going to these subcommittees that the board has decided on, and I'm going to support it. In doing so, you're requesting 2 members of our board to sit on this committee.
Correct.
And Commissioner Gardner indicated that he would like as vice chair. So formerly, when we had a committee of the whole, the vice chair was generally the chair of the Health and Human Service Committee. So I think that's appropriate, and that the vice chair, I'm going to move that the vice chair be a part of this. But in addition, because Commissioner Berg does not have a subcommittee assignment at this point. He serves on the Health and Human Services Policy Committee at the Association of Minnesota Counties and has about, 20-some years of experience in health and human services. So my motion would include that he be the other person that sits on this committee. So I have a motion on the floor to that effect.
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, I'd just like to share a couple of things. I have a little bit mixed feelings about this, and I'd just like to really know a little bit more with the expectations. First off, we had an excellent meeting last time, very excellent, and I've learned a lot myself. But as a board, we have different experiences with Health and Human Services and knowledge, background of that. And looking at I've also served as vice chair in the past of the Health and Human Services Commissioners Board for the entire board when we used to meet. So I've had some experience with this, as well as the other committees, as Commissioner Emdek mentioned. But also I'm kind of concerned about some of the other commissioners that, what is our intent? Is the intent is to, mostly inform the board what's going on, or to look at things and communicate with the board? And what would we be doing at the meetings?
Yep,
If you could summarize that a little
Yeah,
bit. Do your best.
Well, as we went through in March, there's a lot of moving pieces. And I think what we would hope to see is just that monthly ongoing in connection with the committee to further engage in some dialogue and receive some direction of like, yep, we'd like that to come to full board. We want to maintain our coming and sharing information at this board meeting on an ongoing basis. Provide some further insight on, okay, like I'll use our upcoming May. There's a lot of things we want to talk to you and share with you in May, but you might not want to have us all day. So an opportunity to continue in some dialogue, and then just to be a part of some of our strategic initiatives as we're continuing to move forward in our department and how we serve our community differently, and an opportunity to be a voice at the table and then relay that to the full board, either as our committee representative or request that we take that information forward. So to continue that engagement on an ongoing basis, as well as provide some insight on the topics we would like to bring as a work session. You might want to say yes or no to some of those approvals within that committee. So to maintain further dialogue and engagement.
Commissioner Dale Anderson.
I guess I respect Roger's motion, but I do want to say that I did also show interest in being on this committee, and I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm just intrigued because I'm a new person, but I think it is a really important thing to have a chance to have a smaller committee just to take care of them finer details that we probably don't need to waste a full day doing. But yeah, just wanted to say I am interested if it changes sometime.
So the motion was for the vice chair and Commissioner Berg, I would anticipate that when the vice chair changes, then the vice chair would be that member, whether it's the current vice chair or someone else. And as we do our annual first of the year, first meeting organization, we have that opportunity to make adjustments. But I want to go back to Commissioner Berg because you asked the question, it might have been a qualifying question to see if you would accept the
Oh.
nomination.
Yeah. Well, yes, I would accept the nomination, but also I'd like to hear from Commissioner Anderson if he's still interested, and I respect that point of view, so.
I mean, I'm interested, but that's fine. I just wanted to say that I am interested in sometime if it changes or whatever.
Yeah, and as I said, part of my reason for recommending Commissioner Berg is that he doesn't have a subcommittee assignment right now, and some of us have 3. So in the interest of parity and the experience that he's got, and that he's he's on the policy committee at the Association of Minnesota Counties, I think it's a good fit. So any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Next up, Spirit of Collaboration, Kaneohe County Public Health and Pact for Families Partnerships. Ship,
Good morning.
good morning.
How was everyone this morning?
Doing good.
Good. It's nice to see the sun. That's what I thought driving here instead of the snow we had last week. So I'm Jessica Johnson. I work with Pact for Families. I oversee our Partnership for Success grant. What that means is I work on youth substance use prevention, and I focus on alcohol, tobacco, vaping, and marijuana. Brittany and I came here today to share some important things that are coming up within Kaneohe County and projects that we have been doing. So the first I would like to share is we have Be Extraordinary BU coming out. They will be in Kaneohe County on Wednesday, April 17th. So Be Extraordinary BU is Randy and Heather Backus, and they come and share their very personal story with their son's struggle with cannabis addiction, cannabis-induced psychosis, as well as his eventual suicide. Brittany and I both saw their presentation when we went to program sharing this past fall. So moving, so insightful. They're very passionate, and they are very, very educated in what they are presenting. We're excited to bring it not only to Wilmer High Schools, but we also will be bringing it to the public health, Pact for Families, as well as doing a community engagement night.
And then this training is also being extended to all Kaneohe County.
Would you introduce yourself as
Yeah,
well?
I'm Brittany Schultz. I'm the SHIP coordinator for Kaneohe County Public Health. Jeff was here to present a couple months ago, but I missed it. So we actually will be pushing this training out to all Kaneohe County staff as well. So I'm excited to kind of spread that information, even if it's not maybe someone's direct duties or like what they directly work with. Because I think in some capacity it might affect all of our lives at some point. And then moving on from that, Jess and I have been working together to start a vape disposal pilot in the schools. So we actually saw this project done in Dakota County. And really, it's not about just disposing vapes, but it's starting the conversation of what are the tobacco cessation services being offered in schools, because ultimately that's the root cause to stopping all of these vapes coming into the schools. For those of you that don't know, the confiscated vapes have lithium-ion batteries in it, and they can start on fire at any point. And if you talk to any teacher that confiscates them in the school, they just have them laying all over their desk in a random drawer. And really, that's not probably the best way to be storing them, because teachers can get nic sick. So when that nicotine touches your skin, you can get sick, feel like you're maybe having a heart attack. So we wanted to implement something for the safe storage of these. So we created a vape disposal box that these vapes can be put in, and then we're also collecting some data to see how many vapes are being confiscated throughout the school year, and hopefully we'll see those rates decline. And then also asking the questions, was the student referred to a tobacco cessation service? So we're doing this in Kaneohe County right now with NLS, and then we're also pushing it out to Renville County and Yellow Medicine County in one of their schools. So right now it's the pilot, and then next year, after gathering all this information, asking the schools for feedback, we're gonna see if we can push it out to all of the schools here in Kaneohe County. And then some of you might have already seen this. Maybe I could pass out some copies if that's okay. So this is a collaboration between Pact for Families, local SHIP coordinators, and all of our drug-free coalitions. We saw this done by Martin County, and we wanted to pilot it here. So what this is, it's a Youth Connections magazine, and we worked with a company out in Montana to design this. And in here, there's some ads about adverse childhood experiences. There's local content highlighting work done by the drug-free coalitions, by local SHIP. There is an article in here that I know that some nurses have been using with clients about unplugging from technology. And there's also an article in here about legal does not mean okay, which is kind of timely with the marijuana legalization. So I'd encourage you guys to look at that, maybe use it to start a conversation with a friend. But this has kind of been cool to see come to life. It took a lot of work done by everyone, and Jess was really a driver for that project too, in getting all the ads and everything sorted out. And in tune with this, we have been doing with Health and Human Services and other people in the county, the Kids Connection event being put on by Woodland Centers. So really, if you haven't stopped in there yet, that is a great event every Tuesday that is free to all community members. And really the goal of it is not to promote our programs, not promote what we do for work, but to create some positive childhood experiences for kids and families in our communities. So if you haven't been there, I would definitely encourage you to stop by. I'll be there tonight planting cherry tomatoes with kids. That's the SHIP coordinator in me. And then there'll also be other events, and our Breastfeeding Coalition tent is also there as well, trying to raise awareness about that. So, yeah.
Thank you for all your work in those areas. Anybody have any comments or questions they'd like to? Go ahead, Administrator Baker.
I just want to thank Brittany and Jess for being here today, because I think it's sometimes us in county government, we don't pat ourselves on the back enough for the work that we do. And the work that these two individuals do throughout our county is really outstanding, and I think they deserve more recognition than they probably want. But I think the work that they're doing really affects the future generation of Candioi County, and I just really want to make sure that they know that I really value the work that they do, and this board does as well. And also, if any of you as the commissioners want to attend the Kids Connection Tuesday nights, you are more than welcome to volunteer. I made leapfrogs with kids one night, and it was a very rewarding experience. This isn't geared towards one group or the other. It's geared towards any kids, whatever income they come from, lifestyle they come from, but any kid and or adult that wants to volunteer. And it's a great experience. It's a great networking experience, and I think it's a great addition to one of our communities within Candioi County.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Berg.
Administrator Baker, very good comments. And so often, a lot of the county services are reactive type of services we provide. And it's not too often we get to do prevented, and this is really focusing on prevented type services. And such a good example of collaboration, too, between so many different agencies. So it is exciting and to see all the things that's taken place. And I want to comment maybe a little bit more later, but maybe at another time with Steve, Commissioner Gardner and myself have been talking about the program and some ARPA dollars, but we'll talk to Administrator Baker later about that. But also, could you elaborate a little bit more on the magazine, because that is a local magazine, and then when is the next publication? I want to share that.
Yeah, so we've been questioned a lot about when the next publication will be. We are hoping to maybe do this twice a year, maybe quarterly, but I think we'll have to talk to all of our partners that have been involved. And there was some talk maybe about when people purchase an ad, like we will set it up so that it's for the next 4 editions of the magazine. Yeah, it's been really cool to see all the people that have been interested in this. I'm not sure if you guys remember the ACES calendar that was done about 2 years ago. That was kind of just as I was starting, but this kind of resulted after doing that. We're like, oh, what do we do next? And then we had seen this and thought it would be something cool to try. So it actually is being pushed out to the schools as well. They haven't been delivered yet, but we want to get some feedback from them too, like see if it was beneficial, did it start conversations? And then maybe people could also use this for some table conversations at home as well.
And one thing to point out is if you go on the back page, there's a QR code. please take that survey if you liked it and you found it helpful. You take it, you let us know. That's going to help us, see too if this is something that we should continue. One thing that's also unique to our addition that we did is the ad spaces that were purchased. Vast majority of them actually were positive messaging, positive community norms. So when we look at other counties that have done this, they have true ad spaces. Like one place had one for Caribou, where ours is chock full of information of local resources. So that's been really helpful when you're handing this out. You're handing out not only good information, but you're also handing out resources.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As long as we have you here, I asked the question earlier of the sheriff if he had any comments regarding the advisability of discussing a cannabis licensing moratorium.
So I work within Candy, Ojai, Renville, and Yellow Medicine counties. Renville and Yellow Medicine counties have passed adult use cannabis ordinance. They have not gone the moratorium route. We have learned with working in cities that there are some businesses that are really trying to focus on that loophole aspect of, there's some questions right now. So I don't really have a recommendation. I don't believe I can have a recommendation within my role, but that's just one thing to remember is within that time frame is people are out there and they are trying to find some loopholes.
And that's kind of the point that I think some of our neighbors, I know Chippewa's having a public hearing at their board meeting today. And talking about having a moratorium. This is really a regulatory thing that we need to be considering at this point in time. Cannabis is already legal, we know that. But the licensing, especially the more enhanced, not enhanced, but the Office of Cannabis Management wants to issue licenses ahead of next year for certain applicants. And my question revolving around this is, do we have the proper mechanisms in place for regulating this? And is this something that we should just make sure that we're taking a step back and make sure we don't end up with a bunch of unintended consequences? You'd mentioned outfit in Canby trying to skirt the rules already. I know I've heard of that at AMC as well.
If it's appropriate, could I share about that business in Canby? Mm-hmm. So there was we track who is applying for licenses within the state of Minnesota for each of the 3 counties we work in. At one of our last Chemical Health Coalition meetings in Yellow Medicine County, we had a new business called Winter Wellness. One of our coalition members did some digging because he lives in Canby and found that it was a residential home that actually had a website. On the website, they were marketed as a nonprofit and stated if you donated to the nonprofit, you would receive, based on your donation amount, you would receive this cannabis as a gift. We talked with the county attorney who actually got myself connected with Chief Walker in Canby. Through conversations with him, we realized this was an area where it was not very clear. We talked with the Drug Task Force as well as I personally reached out to the Office of Cannabis Management to file a complaint, let them know at this point, which was about a month ago, they did not have anything set up in order to properly file a complaint. So I literally sent an email to a random person hoping that they would respond. I was then directed to fill out a complaint with the Department of Health with their low potency edibles. Once that was done, I was told that that was not the correct way to go by Department of Health. So then I was told to reach out to Office of Cannabis Management. I did that again, followed up, and then we did find out that the Office of Cannabis Management had sent a letter to that business owner stating, here are some penalties that you will have if you do not change the structure of your website or your business. And that letter was also sent to Chief of Police in Canby, the Canby City Attorney, Yellow Medicine Sheriff, as well as the Yellow Medicine County Attorney.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure we could have a work session based on a conversation regarding cannabis. But I have a question. Your toolbox for the vape disposal triggered this for me at both the National Association of Minnesota Counties and at the State Association annual conferences. There has been a company out of I think they're out of Minnetonka or the western suburbs anyway, by the name of Deterra. Have you ever heard of that? So this company makes pouches with a carbon packet. There's a lot of people who, probably half of us at this dais has had a joint replaced or some kind of surgery in which we were offered opiates when we were done. And we might use some of them and the rest of them go into the medicine cabinet, and 5 years later, they're still in the medicine cabinet. Well, what this product does is to neutralize the opiates. So somebody who has it can put the opiates in that packet, add a little water to it, and it'll neutralize them. So it might be something that, along with the vaping disposal thing, that you might just take a look at it and say, is that something that you guys could do in your education work with schools and communities and maybe senior centers, because we're the ones that have a lot of potential opiates sitting in our medicine cabinets. So anyway, thank you for the great presentation. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Quick trip.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Big Candy East DNR fund request. Administrator Baker.
Morning, Commissioners. Kelsey Baker, Candioi County Administrator. Before you today is a board request form that was concluded in your packet regarding the DNR grant for the Big Candy East project. This is a split 50-50 grant. We received this grant a few years ago. In the 2022 and the 2023 budget, we had allocated that $200,000 for the matching funds. And this would go towards this, like I said, the amendment includes, excuse me, an ADA compliant shower trailer, a fishing pier, a floating dock, a rolling dock, and then 2 additional camping cabins that would be included in the amendment. The dollar amount has decreased, so now our obligation would be the $114,500. However, we pay for everything up front, so I would be requesting approval of up to $240,000 out of the reserves to use towards this project, and then we would be reimbursed the 50% of it. I went a little bit above, just so that if there are any underlying costs or anything that come up, we have that approval. This is kind of the first step. Jeremy Pfeiffer, our Assistant County Engineer, has been working with the DNR on this. We're waiting for final approval, but the DNR has received our amendment. And once we receive that final go-ahead, I will verbalize or send out an email or provide an update at a county board meeting that we're able to move forward with that. These dollars have to be spent by June 30th, 2024. We are waiting to hear for final approval when the projects need to be completed by, and that's just something that Jeremy is working through with DNR. So today, like I said, I'm asking for approval to use up to $240,000 from the reserves to go towards the DNR grant for Big Candy East Park.
So you've heard Administrator Baker's recommendation to approve the upfront request for $240,000, of which the bulk of that would get returned to us when the funds were appropriated.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the use of up to $240,000 for the DNR grant for Big Candy East project. So,
Commissioner Dwayne Anderson moves on the request. Do I hear a second?
Go ahead.
No,
Commissioner Berg
I'll
seconds.
second it.
Any comments or questions? I have an idea for a little bit of the cost overrun. At the risk of sounding hypersensitive about getting old. Last year about this time, or it was a little later than this, I got a phone call from a guy who loves to fish on the Crow River just east of Oak Hill Cemetery, if those of you know the area. And inadvertently, there was a pipe or something that was not put in the dock at the time that the docks were put out. And his wife has some ambulatory issues. And so they had a real challenge getting out of their boat at that dock. But grab bars would be a great idea on docks, because boats are pretty, especially if you're in a canoe or a kayak, are pretty unstable. So if you got up to that dock, if you had a grab bar you could utilize, would be a great feature. Anyway.
I did
Go
have
ahead.
a question. When we were at the Road and Bridge meeting too, we were discussing this somewhat. With the bathhouse, that was a little bit of question about that, correct? And if it doesn't get approved and or fit our needs, is there another plan to utilize those dollars that like maybe you're talking about or something, I don't know.
We were talking about $1.98 for some pipe and a
Oh,
large or something.
okay, all right.
Of course, when you do it federally, then it gets more expensive.
But to answer your question, Commissioner Berg, we don't have any plans with the bathhouse. That's really a standstill. I think that's really the ongoing conversation that we're gonna have with the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council and the DNR and then the county board on kind of what that long-term plan is, because in reality, this amendment is for us to not waste grant dollars and to still get some amenities fixed out at this park. However, the main issue still at hand is this bathhouse. So there will be some long conversations and some hard decisions I would anticipate in the future regarding the decision with that bathhouse.
So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. So we haven't had report outs now for this will be the third meeting, so we got potentially a lot of report outs, but before we do, I had asked.
Roger, we got to do that consent agenda.
Oh, yeah, thank you. You pulled one off the,
Yep.
so that was number,
B.
letter B. Okay.
So I guess my question is, on the first page of the audit, warrant list, there's the one check it's 1064, and I guess it's for the attorneys for our performance review. And I guess I'd just like to know more about it, where that authorization comes from, how that works. I'm just curious. That was my question for bringing it up. I know we probably had one in a previous that we didn't address for the same place, but just wanted more information. That's what my question is.
Yeah, I don't work in the auditor's office, so I don't know that I can answer that. So we should probably have Karen or Mark answer that next time?
That's fine. I just,
Well, would you clarify the question, maybe
Yeah.
we all don't understand the question exactly.
well, it was for the attorney that did our performance review is what I'm guessing, because that's what it said in the check number. And I was just, it's $550. I was just wondering, how that gets approved, how that, who authorizes that person as an attorney to come in and do that. And I guess just more information on why we do that, or how we do that, and how we justify that.
Well, I can speak to that a little bit. Anytime that there is a contract or labor issue at a county, you need to have counsel to cover that. And if you're referring to Ann Gehring, she has done this work for Kaneohe County for 20-some years. She worked with other counties across the state of Minnesota, and I needed to, if you're talking about the first time, I needed to have somebody who I could speak to cover this, because it was new ground for me.
Right. So I guess my question is, and I understand that, but don't we have to have in a resolution that we're going to hire that firm, or that I guess that's my only reason for really asking it does there have to be a authorization for the whole board to use somebody like that to do our
It's a good question. It's probably another good reason to have board operating guidelines. But I know that Ms. Gehring has done work for Renville County. She did work for Kaneohe County for many years. And there's a few firms around the state that do that kind of work. And I'm sure there are others that we could do, but that's the name that I had at the time and
So if I may, so is this a firm we have on retainer? Is that where the authorization comes from?
I don't know that we have them on a retainer there. We've worked with them for 20 years,
Yep.
but I don't think we pay a retainer.
Typically, you don't have a labor attorney on retainer. The only retainer we have with attorneys would be the Rinke Noonan contract. That's the only one. And really, we kind of talked about this a little bit. It's really it might depend on a situation who you work with for a labor attorney, based off kind of that expertise, if it's labor negotiations, if it's a disciplinary process, different things like that. but typically a county wouldn't have a labor attorney on retainer, but they do typically work outside of the county attorney's office with a labor attorney.
Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's always, and that, I think that's why it needs operational guidelines, to be clear, because it's kind of passed on, but doesn't always get passed on to everybody else. But it's my understanding that when it comes to labor issues, that as county commissioners, this is an attorney that, if we have a question that what we might want to talk about or ask a question, to be sure when it comes to labor issues that we can consult with an attorney about it. And this would be that person. And so as individuals, we could do that, or we could do it as entirely as a board too, and have that person involved. But it's my understanding as individuals that as a county commissioner, if I have a legal question that I would probably go to a labor attorney like that, that would be the person that we would use. So that's, I'm guessing how that came about.
Right.
And not practice,
And everybody should have the same knowledge if I'm correct on that.
and not practice in law. You know, there's some landmines that you walk through in terms of
Saving.
what can be said, what can't be said, what can be divulged, and, you know, you need some guidance. And in that case, it was a closed session, so the county attorney couldn't be there.
Yeah, and I guess my reason for asking is it just the questioning of should we have had a resolution ahead of time, saying, kind of going back to what Corky's talking about. I mean, me as a new person doesn't understand that we have that ability to talk to somebody other than Mr. Baker. I mean, that was where I was kind of thinking it was our only avenue. So, I mean, that was my reason for asking.
Okay, yep. All right, anything, Commissioner Gardner?
Yep, thank you. So I think part of the heartburn that maybe might be happening over this is this was certainly not a full board decision to bring on this hearing. And so, you know, wondering why that was and why we didn't have a full board discussion on that.
You asking that of me? Is that the purpose of these questions, or is it just to find out? I think it started out as.
Well,
what the auditor
it's
payment
process.
was.
I just wanted to know what the process was. That was my reason for asking.
Because we don't have board operating guidelines, and as the chair, I needed to reach out to somebody for legal advice. That was the only name I was aware of.
And, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, I think if we each think of ourselves too, as commissioners, each one of us, we're out there making a lot of decisions, making a lot of comments that could affect us individually in lawsuits as well as the county. And I think it's important that we have the option. I encourage that we keep this option, that if we needed to contact a labor attorney about something, and this is the one that the board has kind of agreed upon over the years, that we as individuals can ask that person a question that you wouldn't necessarily ask as a whole board, because you may not always agree on every situation or whatever. But for our own protection as a commissioner, I think I don't want to lose that option if I ever have that need to talk to an attorney. And I think it's important we do. But also as a board, I think it's important that we know that we have these options. And as a board, we can also talk to that attorney as one as well.
Yeah, it's for our own well-being and safety that we have that counsel.
And perhaps sometime in the future, we can just maybe get a piece of advice from our county attorney on what might be best practices going forward.
Sure, and that, again, I would reiterate that that's why I think we'd benefit greatly from some board operating guidelines. So when these situations come up, we have a guideline to guide us.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was asking is if it's something that we should have, then we need to do that at the beginning of the year, just like we do our appointments for our committees, that we're gonna have that person as a person to contact if we have issues. I mean, that's my thought, but that was my reason for kind of asking it. So.
It's not a bad idea. We've never done it in 12 times now that I've been here. And I was put in a position I needed to have counsel, and so I had to make a call.
And Mr. Chair, I don't think this is unique to Candy Lake County.
No.
And so other counties usually do it if I don't know for a fact, I can't check them off. I'm guessing is what I've kind of heard anyway, that this is the way it works with other counties as well.
School boards,
And,
any taxpayer
Administrative
boards
Maker
use them
might
all
not
the time. So, and this firm specialized in public entities like county governments, school boards, all over the state of Minnesota. It's what I had available, so. Anything else? Well, thanks for bringing that up, by the way.
We got to move on that, Roger,
Yep.
Move on what?
on that B. And I'll make that motion to approve the warrants.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. So, the item pulled off the consent agenda was, Dale is making Commissioner Dale Anderson is making the motion to pay that bill. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Gardner seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, the last thing on here before we go to report outs is I requested this be put on the agenda. I think, as I put it in the background, we have, from time to time, we have some citizen positions on our advisory boards, or some of them are governing, which we don't always fill that easily. I remember a couple of years ago, our state, our health, community health board had an open position for a couple of years. I think the library board has suffered that for a while. I wish it was my own idea, but I was at the Painesville All Board Appreciation Lunch about 10 days ago, maybe a little longer now, where they invited all the people that sit on committees to come in, and they had a very light lunch, they had coffee, whatever, and they showed some appreciation for all of those people that serve on the committees. And so what I would ask, I'm not asking for action here, but just to have a brief discussion about whether or not it would be valuable for us to do this. And we have two options here. One is we have our county committees like AIS and Planning and Zoning, Community Corrections, but then we also have some joint powers ones. So the library, there's people from other counties that are on Pioneer Library Board. So do you just, if you were to consider doing this, would you do it just for the people in the county? Would you do anybody that, in my opinion, anytime I have to fill a spot, I want to reward those people and recognize them. So I would do Pioneer Land Library as well as maybe even North Fork Watershed Policy Committee, one watershed, one plan. I took the liberty to see what something like that would cost. And last week when I was at leadership conference, and I asked people again at lunch and in the social time who do that. And a lot of counties do this. They do it in different ways. Some counties, the commissioners themselves write the check. I don't know if they put it on their expense account later on, but in some counties, they write the check. And there might be an auditing requirement to have a certain amount of business at one of these meetings, but I just think it would be a nice way to recognize and show some appreciation for those citizen members that we call on to help guide us in the county. So I just open it up for discussion if anybody has any comments on it. If it's a bad idea, it's a bad idea, and we'll move on.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the only comment, and I had asked for additional background information on this, was that some of our committees, I'm not sure if those entities do their own appreciation. That would one thing I would want to check with our employees. You know, they might already be doing an appreciation. I think you could do both. I think this brings it up to the board level. I know I agree, in other counties, they do it slightly different. If it were to be a public meeting, you know, you could do a reimbursement for food, but if it's not held with the full board at a public meeting, then yes, it would be kind of out of our own pockets, an appreciation deal like that. But that is just what I wanted to say, that maybe we should just check with our staff, that if they do on their own within their committees with like AIS, and if they already do their appreciation meals. So we just don't want to do both, but we could also combine.
I can't answer that question.
Right,
honestly.
yep.
I know that the committees that I serve on do not do that at this point. And I would include staff. Like, if it was AIS, for example, I would like to have Russ Hilbert, you know, be a part of it, and planning and zoning, if they're able and willing. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, but, you know, few $1,000s can cover a lot of ground and show a lot of appreciation for, with reserves and a little bit of social time. So anyway, with that.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner
thank you. Yes, I think this is a very good idea to look at this because we do struggle to find people. And I think the value of this would be for recruitment myself. And I think it's, I know there's several other committees that do their own, appreciation for the volunteers in their group. But I think it might be a good idea to have further discussion, not that we have to make I'm not looking to make a decision today, but discuss it further, that we do rise it up to the board level, that we do something and appreciation, but also let the public know that, hey, we need volunteers. If you're interested in working and doing some stuff for making a difference in our community, we need people on these different advisory committees, and maybe go together with some of all the agencies we have already. PAC for Family would probably be interested in being, part of this as well. And maybe we can use up a little bit of whatever ARPA dollars be left to do that. But it's just food for thought, and I think it's good discussion to have.
Well,
It's a
Administrator-
positive one, then, that getting the word out there that we really appreciate what's happening.
Yeah,
On a board level.
if, my thought was, to answer the question about ARPA dollars, is that if this is something that works and people appreciate, it would probably be, hopefully it would be an annual thing. And then ARPA dollars would work going forward. Commissioner Anderson, you had a,
I guess I totally think this would be a good thing. I think of the veterans breakfast that they had months back down in the, in the room in the basement. I think that would be a great way to do it. It doesn't have to be a breakfast, but something like that. I mean, where everybody could sit down and visit and talk about what they're doing and have a chance to learn more about each other's organizations. I think that'd be a great thing to just have here in that room and have a little late lunch or a late food or something. And I think that'd be a great idea.
any other comments? I was thinking more along the lines of an evening.
Yeah, that'd be
social
fine.
that we-
Yep.
And then whoever happens to be chair in that particular year, they might want to find a venue for it and do it in the evening. We could do it, yeah. School Foundation in New London does it too, and it's another genesis for me on that one. So anyway, thank you for the discussion. We'll probably bring it up again at another time. Committee reports. Been a long time, so I don't know if you're prepared to go all the way back. Commissioner Gardner, you want to start for us?
Mr. Chair, I just want to remind us that we do have a policy committee meeting that we just received a reminder for on our phones a couple of minutes ago. And also that I do have a time that I do need to be getting out of town here as well. So
Okay, so you're going to pass?
I'm going to pass.
Okay, Dale?
Just a couple of things. Interesting things going on at Prairie Woods. They are working at their daycare preschool. They applied for the grant, and a lot of things are moving and looking at different options, looking at rebuilding their challenge course and doing some updating with that. So there's a lot of things interesting there that they're working on, and have a great outlook for things to come, and keep your eyes out. I think you're going to see things. We did have a Glacial Trails meeting. We haven't had any for about a year, so we're going to try and get that committee back going. Everybody has an opportunity to use that trail anytime they want. There's kiosks in different towns in Wilmer and Sunburg. South, I think down south of Wilmer, there's also another one. The biggest thing that we talked about was that everybody has to understand that that's not a tarred trail. It goes from tarred to gravel to a little teeny back road gravel. So it's a beautiful drive and a beautiful trail, but it's not all tarred. And I think that's the biggest comment that people have been hearing, is that they start on it where it's tarred, and then they get disappointed and upset because they get on these back roads that are all gravel. But to me, the most beautiful part of that trail is where it is gravel. So you just got to take time on a nice day and enjoy that trail. We had the county parks meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, trying to get geared up for the new park season. And I think we have a great opportunity to fill our parks this year because Sibley has got part of their park closed down. So it's a great opportunity, I think, for us to fill our parks. And I'm going to jump to the next one other thing. So we had a tourism meeting yesterday, and they also said that there's really a large amount of input coming into the county as far as parks and looking at camping situations. If we could build another 100 campgrounds, I think we would probably see them being used. There's just a great need and a great desire for people, like Corky had said earlier, to come into this county for some reason right now. So I think we have a great opportunity to let people know that we have a good place to vacation and enjoy the lakes that we have. Other than that, we are also, just one other committee that we are working on, and actually I have to go there after dinner too again, is we're working on the ditch 27 and 29 that are coming into Norway Lake. We have a subcommittee that's working on that and continually looking at water quality and water resources for that area. It's been an issue that's been in this area for many, many, many years, and we're just keeping on trying to figure out a way to improve it. I don't think we have an answer for it, but I think to try and help improve that is one of the big things. Other than that, I mean, I could go on for hours, but I'll let it be.
Please don't.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll go next. I'm looking back at the calendar. I haven't got it. Like you said, there's a lot of different meetings going on, and we can really dig into it. But just off the top of my head, like Prime West, we had our meeting, and of course we're following the state legislation concerning Prime West, and things seem to be moving along there very positive, and our local representatives are really being supportive of that. So kind of monitoring that, and those meetings have gone well. We have Act 4 for families and annual major meeting we've had, and the election of officers, and it was a very good meeting. And what else came out of that? One of the discussions we had, and we're going to be also then forming a subcommittee to look at the joint powers and bylaws again from the commissioner's point of view, serving on that board. So that's going to be another subcommittee. And speaking of another subcommittee, on the 18 County Mental Health Consortium, we've had two meetings, in-person meeting about the consortium, but also a subcommittee meeting, which was by Zoom, concerning the bylaws and the joint powers of that organization as well. And you get 18 counties involved with 18 different ideas. It's challenging at times, but I think we're making good progress. I'd just like to, give a shout out to Corinne Torkelson. She's a supervisor at Human Services in the area of mental health and serves on that committee and is the current chair of the operational committee for the 18 County Mental Health Consortium. So she's also chairing this subcommittee on redoing the joint powers, and is doing an excellent job moving us forward and keeping us on task. And I think that's probably enough to give an update on. Thank you.
Dwayne.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I just want to mention a couple things and just kind of keep it brief, but I'm on that ARMORS board, the Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board. And one thing I did talk to Sheriff Tollefson about it when we were on one of our breaks, but they want to have the county talk to them about GIS and IT involvement with them, because they do have grant money and stuff available for training, and they also want to know what each county's needs are. And so I just wanted to make sure it got back to the county on that. And then I'm the chair of that committee now, and I feel like I'm the most uninformed one on that committee, because everybody else came from like law enforcement background that are now county commissioners and maybe former firemen and stuff, or even current firemen. But anyway, so there's a conference that's coming up in May. So there's a good chance that I'll be missing our first county board meeting in May. I'm really struggling with that, because for me, my first priority is the county. but at the same time, I got to get up to speed, what's going on with this, and a good way to find out is going to that conference. But they did say I could miss the morning and then kind of zoom up to St. Cloud after our county board meeting, so I might just do it that way. And then the other thing was, we did have that EDC broadband meeting yesterday, so there's good news. There's another round opening up for grant applications, and it's going to be due in May. And so we got some that we had on the docket that got passed over last time, and we're going to resubmit them, and hopefully we get those grants approved this next round, so.
Thank you. I see you writing. Did you have something you wanted to, Kelsey, Administrator Baker?
If it's okay, I can.
Yeah.
Just a reminder, at the April 16th, after that board meeting, we're going to do the budget work session that has been requested by the board. We'll do kind of a short recap of the 2023 budget. We'll look at projections for 2024 regarding wages. We go out for an RFP regarding our health insurance, so it'll be hard to kind of see where we're at with that this early on in the game. But the last time Karen Anderson and I presented regarding the budget that was requested, we asked for feedback on what information you are wanting to see. And so that's why I'm kind of going to go over some of this. And if we don't hear back, we're just providing information that we feel that is best. And so in order to kind of fulfill those needs that are being requested, it would be very much appreciated if we can hear feedback from the commissioners in regards to what you want to hear. And so like I said, we'll look at 2023, we'll look at 2024. We're going to provide the full monthly budget report. That will include all of the county funds. We'll look at some investments. We'll kind of do a synopsis of each of the fund balances. Restricted, unrestricted funds. Carol Tollefson is the fiscal supervisor within Health and Human Services. She's going to provide an update regarding that budget because that is a different fund than the general revenue fund, along with Paul Bacher within Public Works. He's going to provide kind of a 1-2 page overview regarding Road and Bridge because that is a different fund as well. And then we'll also provide the first quarter report for the financial report. So we'll kind of get into a routine of a quarterly financial report to the board. I'll provide kind of a PowerPoint and a presentation of where we're looking at for 2025 numbers. If we inputted 24 into 25, what would that levy be? Kind of what are some key areas? And so in the meantime, because it's kind of a quick turnaround time from today until April 16th, if you do have any questions or any input, if you could please let me know by Thursday. Karen Anderson and I would really appreciate that. We've looked at many different.
This Thursday?
Yeah, because the board packet's due next week. Yep. And so this was presented probably a month ago. So you've had some time to think about what you're wanting. But that is kind of an overview. And I think that really does answer some of your questions and concerns that we have been talking about over the course of the year. So I think that will be sufficient enough. But if there is anything else that you're specifically wanting, let me know. The other thing is I've been working with, and I emailed this.
Can I just follow up on this?
Yep.
Perfect. Everything you said, it sounds just perfect. It's information I'd like to know, and that's very well planned. And I was going to ask you about, well, maybe we should give you questions ahead of time. I had a lot of questions now to try and get them all to come back, but I'll try to get them to you too. So I'm looking forward to this.
By Thursday.
Yeah. What's the time frame are we going to put down for our work session? Is it going to be afternoon or just right after the morning board meeting?
I was just talking with the chair about that prior to the board meeting. We'll see kind of what we have on the agenda. If it's, like I said, if it's like the Health and Human Services work session, it might just be 11 to 1, or we'll kind of play that by ear if we do a 12 to 2 or a 1 to 3, something like that.
Okay, or 11 to noon, break for lunch.
Right.
1 for
Yep. I'll kind of see what we're working with on the agenda for the 16th. And you don't have to have your questions, but if there's specifically that you want something you want included in that board packet, let me know. The other thing I wanted to mention is I did email this to the chair and the vice chair as well. I've been working with a facilitator for our strategic plan proposal, and she submitted the proposal. It's been requested from a commissioner that we maybe look at doing an assessment rather than doing a strategic plan first. This is something I believe Julie Ring with AMC has recommended to you. And I know you've had some conversations with her about this. I'm a little hesitant. I think we want to make sure we can keep moving on the strategic plan. But I will meet with this individual when he's available to see more about what this assessment will be. But I just don't want to keep pushing or kicking the can down the road with the strategic plan, because I think the strategic plan is different than the assessment. And I think the strategic plan is really important to the overall organization as a whole. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. And I got a lot, but I'm going to try to, in the interest of time, get through some of those. On March 11th, we had, I am on an AMC Emergency Services Working Group at the Association of Minnesota County. And the good news from the Capitol right now is, well, it's not good news yet, but the governor has put $16 million in his supplemental budget for increasing emergency services, but the House and the Senate have roughly $120 and $140 respectively. So there'll be some arm wrestling going on there, and we hope that the Houses win in this case. Then we had a special meeting of the Joint EDC, Joint Powers EDC to select the search firm. That was on the 14th. Well, let me back up. On the 12th was the Minnesota Broadband Border-to-Border Broadband celebration in Brooklyn Center at the Heritage Center, where I was on a panel talking about how Kandiyohi County and is working towards getting 100% coverage in the county. There was 3 other counties also in that panel, and Michelle Moratsky from the EDC was on yet a separate panel. So that was pretty good, but I had to rush home for the Highway 23 MnDOT Open House, 23 and 9 MnDOT Open House, and then it was also Township Day all over the state of Minnesota. Then the next day I went back down to St. Paul for Transportation Alliance. That was a good meeting, although we're not expecting a huge amount of dollars for transportation this year, but the governor was there, the chairs of both the House and Senate Transportation Committees were there, Capital Investment, Representative Erdahl, who you probably know by now is retiring, but he's been a good guy on Capital Investment, he was there. Attended township meetings as you all did, well, most of us did. On the 20th, I went to that Painesville meeting I referenced earlier. And then I've been working with, it has been confirmed that our District 6 meeting, of which Kandiyohi County is the host this year, we are going to be holding it at Rambo's new building. And I talked to the administrator and the staff at AMC. We did that for a NACO meeting in St. Paul last November, where we actually went to 3M's Innovation Center. And other counties do this. It gives us a chance to, let other counties in the area know of some of the businesses that are going on. And so Rambo is very excited about that, and maybe it'll serve as a model for the future. So that's on the 12th, June 12th in Rambo. So you'll get more on that. We had a personnel committee meeting.
Excuse me, what date is that?
June 12th.
I thought I had it in my calendar. I don't. Thank you.
Okay. I lost my place. Oh, March 25th, we had a CPT meeting in Morris. That was the day of a snowstorm, or following that snowstorm, so we did it by Zoom. But CPT, as you know, is counties providing technology. Went through some bit of a challenging times about 2 years ago with the executive director that has moved on. And in the course of that person's tenure, they dropped the counties in North Dakota that we were working with. We had 4 counties, and they were not very happy about it because the only alternative out there was way, way more expensive. Well, we've sort of smoothed that over, and those counties are back, and they're actually looking at another county, pretty big county in North Dakota that would like to consider CPT services. And it is it's a profit center. So us 18 counties, I think it's 18 or 17 of us that own it, it's making money, and they considered a payout this year, but they decided with interest rates where they're at, they're going to just leave it, continue to build for now. And of course, we had the road and bridge meeting. We met with the DDA regarding the selection or the future selection of the executive director for the Economic Development Commission. Last week was AMC Leadership Summit in Grandview. 3 of us were there. And then I serve on the Minnesota Department of Transportation LRIP Advisory Committee. And Mr. Odens, have we heard? They gave the awards, but we were sworn to secrecy because they were going to announce them on March 29th, and then they were going to announce it April 1st, and then I still haven't heard. But Kaneohe County had 3 or 4 different projects that were under consideration. I don't know for sure. Have you heard anything?
Yes, they were going out last night, and then we got 2 this morning. So the one that did receive an award was Dovry Township. Sunberg did not, Raymond did not, and neither did ours for our counter.
So we, 1 out of 4.
1 out of 4.
It's a tough decision. There's a lot of good leadership. Then I was also actually asked to serve on a policy advisory committee for a corridor planning program with MnDOT. So they're going to, we had our first meeting last week. They're going to be prioritizing the corridors in Minnesota where they might be spending their money. And that might be Highway 23, it might be I-94, it might be Highway 10, whatever. So they're going to go through a kind of a long-term process for how that works. And then finally, apologize for the length of this, but I made kind of a tongue-in-cheek suggestion to Mr. Odens last week about doing our Monarch Butterfly initiative as a NACO award. And we had Road and Bridge on what, the 26th, was it 26th? And the deadline was the 30th. And I sort of teased him about maybe you want to do that, and knowing that probably couldn't get it done. But while I was at Grandview, or at the leadership conference, we got a notice that they extended the deadline to April 6th. And so I would like to put in an application. It's going to take me about a half a day, put in an application to NACO for the Monarch Butterfly Project. And if I can get some documents from Mr. Odens for background, throw that mud against the wall and see what happens. So I'm going to be working on that probably tomorrow afternoon. That's all I have. So we will adjourn.